Welcome back to SANTEFIRE Motoring, where we really do love our cars. But even more than that, we love performance cars because they exist for a purpose much bigger than getting you from point A to point B. It's about maximizing the enjoyment from point A to point B. And one car that embodies that philosophy is none other than the flagship E-Class, the Mercedes-AMG E53. Those among you with a good ear and a keen eye will notice that I said E53 and not E63. Things have changed. Let's talk about it. I'd like to start this video off by addressing the elephant in the room. Those among you who love cars will know that this car's predecessor, the E63S, got a big 4-liter twin-turbo V8, and it was absolutely amazing. It made all the right noises, and we know that it performed very well. This one doesn't share the same traits. It gets a 3-liter inline turbocharged 6-cylinder engine mated to an electric motor, but the cool thing is that, yeah, it's lost 2 cylinders, but the power output is still incredible. Max power output is 450 kilowatts in race starts, 430 when you're driving in Sports Plus. It's got 750 Newton meters of torque, and I've personally tested this. It'll do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in under 4 seconds, 3.8 seconds to be exact. And I think 2 cylinders is a small price to pay for keeping the badge alive. See, these manufacturers aren't necessarily downsizing because they want to. They're doing so because they have to. The European Union is squeezing manufacturers. They have to get creative in the way they make their performance cars. It's not just Mercedes-AMG, it's everyone. Fact of the matter is, times are changing, and we need to accept that fact. And once we've done that, we'll then be able to appreciate the marvel of engineering that is the E53 AMG. And before we get into the styling, I must apologize. It's been raining all week and we've struggled to keep the car clean. But let's get into it anyway. At the rear end of the car, you get this very beautiful carbon fiber lip which wraps around to the edge of the boot there. Does a great job of giving this car some presence. If I drop down ever so slightly, you will see what I think are the most beautiful rims on a modern AMG. In fact, after looking at these, I never want to see a black rim ever again. They're stunning, 21 inches, and they're wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss. If I step up ever so slightly, you'll notice that I get a fuel filler cap, but it's not for fuel. That's your electric charging port. I have an identical one on the other end, and that takes 95 unleaded. Moving over to the side, you get pop-out door handles. If I put my thumb there, you'll notice that they pop back in. If I want to open them, all I have to do is just slide my hand across, and then you'll notice that the wing mirrors also open up, which are carbon fiber. On the side here, you'll notice that we do get a fake vent. First thing I've complained about, but look at these haunches. The front end of AMGs has always been carrying this trait, and I'm so glad they kept it alive. And if we move over here, you'll notice that the bottom section of these LED headlights get 2 bumps. The C-Class gets 1, the E-Class gets 2, and the S-Class gets 3. You get some black trims over here, and I mean overall, a very aggressive front end. One of my favorite features is the fact that now all modern AMGs get the Affalterbach logo on the bonnet instead of the 3-pointed star. A nice touch, in my opinion. Yes, this is an E53 AMG with all the punch and performance, but at the end of the day, it is still an E-Class. You're guaranteed luxury, you're guaranteed technology, you're guaranteed a very elevated driving experience. If you haven't seen my review of the E220D, I highly recommend you go check that out because that car and this E53 share a lot of interior components. But for some of our new subscribers, I'm just going to quickly graze over some of the interior components and some of the stuff that makes this one different to the E220D before we go for a drive. For starters, you get something Mercedes calls a super screen. This is an optional extra, and essentially it's a third screen that Mercedes will put on the passenger side of the dashboard, which lets them use whatever they want, really. There's a bunch of functionality here. They can browse the web, they can check out track space, they can also use some comfort technology, they can check out the media, the radio, and navigation as well. It's pretty cool. It's separate to the main one, and if you connect a separate set of headphones, they can listen to their own music while you're listening to something here. But I don't think they're going to hear that music because this car has Burmester 4D audio installed, and it is the best sound system I have ever listened to, ever. You can quote me on that. It's brilliant. You have subwoofers in the seats, which are buckets, by the way, and these do a great job of hugging you in. Over here in the main infotainment display, you get all your normal functionality that you would expect from your camera views, your parking assistance, your climate menu, and all that sort of stuff. And then here, I have my driver cockpit. What's really cool is that I can configure it to show whatever it is I want. I currently have it in track pace, which is my favorite view, but you also have super sport, you also have sport, and then a bunch of other different views. Up here, I can control my heads-up display. Track pace is my favorite one. It just shows me my speed, and I don't have to worry about anything else. The steering wheel is very similar to the E-Class one. What's different though is that I have a drive mode selector rotary dial over here, and I can cycle through electric, comfort, sports, and sports plus. And when I go through sports and sports plus, you'll hear that the car starts up the petrol engine. That's because it actually starts up in electric and then lets you drive for however much range you have. And then if you want the extra power, you can get it. It's like you get two cars in one. It's the coolest thing ever. If we move over to the center tunnel over here, you'll notice that it is in carbon fiber, which is my absolute favorite thing. It looks good. Everything about this car is big. It's grand. And then I have the spaceship ambient lighting, which is a brilliant touch from Mercedes. Back to the seats though. These do a fantastic job of hugging me, especially during extreme driving dynamic type of situations. You'll see that later in the video, which we shot on a different day because the weather has just been so horrible this week. Let's jump into the back seat real quick. And I mean, even in the rear of the car, things are still nice. You have significantly less screens, but it's still a very nice place to be. One of my absolute favorite things is the fact that these buckets have some holes, so I can annoy the driver whenever I want to. Give them a tickle of the neck or a tickle of their belly fat if I want to. They might kick me out, to be honest with you. But right here, you get the usual stuff you would expect. I mean, if I push this once, I get access to put my phone, iPad, or book. And if I push it in slightly and release, it then shows 2 cup holders. Yeah, good luck keeping drinks in place when the driver is doing the speeds that this car is capable of. I've got dual zone climate control, where I can actually control my temperature as well as the direction of the fan as well. And I mean, back here, the sunroof also extends from the front 2 passengers over back here as well. It's split into 2, and I think this is just to support the structural integrity of the car. One of my absolute favorite features is the fact that you also get some vents on the B pillars over here. This beautiful white leather contrasted against this black piano black trim and some really nice ambient lighting. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, go check out the review of the E220D if you want an in-depth look at the interior. I think now it's time for me to jump into the past so that I can take this car on a blast. Right then, let us then get into what the Mercedes-AMG E53 is like to drive. You'll notice that I'm in a different set of clothes, and that's because today's the only good day of weather we've had this week where I felt comfortable enough to send this thing around, you know, properly giving it the beans. We would have been safe in the rain, but I don't think I would have felt comfortable. I mean, this thing is quite expensive, but it's a very capable car, which you will shortly come to find. One interesting thing is that it starts in electric only mode. So when you start the car up, there's a whoosh that comes in, and then that tells you that the car's on, because you don't hear the grunt from the exhaust until you move from electric into comfort and then sports and sports plus, which does sound like this, right? I think you can hear it. The exhaust note is quite muffled. They do pump in some audio, but you know what? I don't really mind it, considering the fact that I think it sounds nice. Some people have some very strong opinions about it. And I mean, pick your battles, Oaks. You know, Europe is under some very tight regulations. They have to downsize their engines and they have to compensate one way or another. Speaking of compensation, this E53 now gets a 6-cylinder turbocharged 3-liter engine. It used to be a 4-liter twin-turbo V8, but like I said, they're under some constraints. But what they've done is that they've compensated for the lack of the 2 cylinders by adding a 120 kilowatt electric motor. That motor is powered by a 28.6 kilowatt hour battery, and it's good enough for about 80 kilometers in the real world from what I've experienced. And you can drive it in all electric mode like I was doing earlier. Like that's what I'm doing right now. It's a very comfortable cruiser. In all electric mode, like I said, you can do about 80 kilometers. I drove from the pantry in Johannesburg to the pantry in Pretoria comfortably. So it gave me an opportunity to sort of play around with some of the tech, and it's got lots of it. For one, it's got augmented reality in its navigation system. I've got a Burmester 4D surround sound system, which is the best in any car I've ever heard, and you can quote me on that. It really is that good. But let me not talk too much about, you know, some of the tech and stuff. Let's just get straight into what the driving dynamics are like. When you put it in Sports Plus, the colors change up a bit, which is something I really like. The ambient lighting seems to be a bit more vibrant. You do hear a bit more of that exhaust note. Let me keep quiet so you can hear it. I think you heard it then. It does sound quite good, but this car performs. It is an intercontinental ballistic missile that is wrapped in leather, has a huge screen, 4 wheels, and really, really nice rims. That is one proper way to describe it. It's so quick. Under my right foot, I have a max power output of 450 kilowatts and 750 Newton meters of torque. In an E-Class, this is an executive sedan. What business does it have carrying around this much power? Well, these are the benefits of driving around in a plug-in hybrid. You sort of get that performance, and the way it delivers its performance is actually really, really cool too. The electric motor fills in some of the torque between you shifting gears, as well as when you're taking off. It launches quite aggressively. I was able to do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in this car in 3.8 seconds. 3.8 seconds in an E-Class. That should make you wonder what the heck S63 feels like, right? But then, yeah, that's that. Let's just get into it, I guess. I'm gonna send this car out now. Oof. The brakes are really good, I'll give it that. And they have a little bit of travel to them, which is nice because you can pinpoint exactly where you want them to start grabbing. You do have to get to the very end of them to get the full bite, but I don't mind. It's better than having brakes that are either on and off. When it comes to the acceleration, well, it's instantaneous. That's what you can expect from a plug-in hybrid like this one. And it definitely pushes you back into your seat. I've got 9 gears. And what's interesting is that I'm able to do 120 kilometers per hour in the first 3, which then begs the question, Mercedes, what the hell am I supposed to do with the other 6 that you've left me with? It's good for fuel economy though. It really, really is good for fuel economy. I'll give them that. But the steering is another really good feature of this car. Mercedes have a very long history in racing, and they were very successful in there too. Some of the F1 technology that you've seen traveling across the world has trickled its way into this car, and it makes for a really great driving experience. I've also got rear wheel steering, which is a very nice touch from them. It makes the car feel like it's a little bit smaller than it actually is. And I mean, you couple the fact that it feels like it has a short wheelbase with the fact that it's got very sharp and precise front end and the speed, it makes for a really, really comprehensive driving experience. And I mean, when I did my pantry to pantry run in all electric mode, flip, this thing is so quick. When I did my pantry to pantry run in all electric mode, I was able to sort of appreciate the fact that it can be a cruiser. But here on these back roads, with its sharp steering and instantaneous acceleration, geez, Mercedes, it feels like I'm driving a completely different car. It's like a 2-in-1, buy one, get one free kind of driving experience. And there are those brakes for you, working very, very well. I love the downshifts. They sound really, really good. But just listen to that. It just skirts through the road, man. And it's so planted too, especially around the bends. I mean, I'm about to take one now. Look at that, huh? It feels like it's vacuumed to the ground, Mercedes. How have they been able to do this? That's the thing that shocks me here. This thing is such a capable backroad cruiser. So the first time I drove the E53 AMG was shortly after it launched, and that was on Swartkops. And my exact words were, it is blisteringly quick on track, but I think where it really thrives is on the road. You sort of do get a feel of the weight, especially when you're sending it around. As planted as it is, you know, that stuff becomes a drawback on the track. But I think on the road, I appreciate the weight. It gives me a sense of security, a sense of comfort. You know, in something lighter, it can feel a bit squirmish when you're accelerating. But because there's so much mass here, you put your foot down and it's like, I've got my own gravity and I've got lots of it too. Lots of it. And there's the speed limit. And that's the thing about these cars. Are you able to properly extract its full performance on the road? Not legally. and I promise you I'm doing the speed limit. You don't have a way to verify if I'm lying or not. What a great car. Look at it just taking these bends. It feels like I'm just carving through the road, man. This is fantastic work from Mercedes-Benz. And I think as I'm driving now, you get a better idea of what the exhaust note sounds like, especially under load. It's not bad. I really, really don't mind it. And what's interesting about it is that, you know, because I'm enveloped in so much technology and luxury, this car is actually quicker than it feels. Once you get a look at the speedometer through the heads-up display, which is very quick, by the way, you're going to get shocked because, my word, how am I doing these kind of numbers? Speed limit, by the way. That's the only number I'm doing. Well done, Mercedes. Jeez, man. And you know what I think? I think this car's biggest problem has nothing to do with what it is. This car's biggest problem is its predecessor. It lives in the shadow of the E53 that came before it. Because everyone seems to believe that in order to have a great AMG, you need a big, thirsty V8. And you know what? There might have been a time where that might have been true, but times have changed. I think Mercedes are leaning very heavily into technology. You see it in the C-Class, the E-Class, the A-Class. It just feels like a gadget on wheels, a very capable and quick gadget at that. But you know, they really love the technological aspect of what they can put into their cars. And this car is not an exception. And in fact, I'm able to appreciate it. You saw how this thing drove. You saw how quick it was. Why do I need a V8? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that what this car is missing is a big heavy V8. Because I mean, it's got the performance, it's got the sound. Yeah, maybe not a V8 sound, but it's got the sound nonetheless. The steering is great. The brakes are responsive. I'm comfortable. I've got all the technology I would need in an interior. And it looks great too. Why do I need a V8? With that said, I think the best thing anyone could ever do for themselves is, instead of being a keyboard warrior, is to just get your bum in the seat. Come and experience what AMG are doing at the current moment, what Mercedes-AMG are doing at the current moment. These cars are great. They're phenomenal, man. And to think that you would pass it up because it doesn't have the number of cylinders you want, that's doing yourself an injustice. This car is amazing.